This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we're the ones who've always encouraged you to like and share them on social media and with all your friends and neighbors, because it's time now for Joanne's World of Nutrition, brought to you by Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce and hosted by the one and only Joanne Seeger.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. So glad to be here this morning. All right, we definitely had to start with the breath work, okay? Because I know that I'm so excited about the topic, I'm going to forget about it. So,
maybe I'll get it right this time.
I think you are going to. I'm going to have full faith that you will do this properly. And if not, I'm going to laugh at you. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
That's all right. I don't mind. I got my big red nose on. I'm
there
with
you
it.
go.
I'm
There
with
you go. All right. So any newbies, welcome to the show. And for my loyal listeners, thanks for listening another week. We want to do some breath work together. So we're going to exhale out any stress, drama, anything that doesn't feel comfortable in our bodies. And we are going to inhale only using our nose for 5.
We're going to excrete negativity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let it go out our pores, right?
Yeah.
So this is also, if you're familiar with the Navy SEAL method or the box breathing method, it is my favorite type of breath work. So you do 5 in through the nose. You hold for 5 out through the nose, and you hold for 5. Now, Cliff, sir, that's where you always forget.
Hold both times.
Yes, so
Okay.
think of a box in your mind.
Right.
So you have to do all 4 sides before you get to the beginning again, okay?
All this work I've done in my life to get outside of the box, and I'm being asked to get back in it.
No, you could be walking on the edges of the outside of the box.
Oh,
How
I
does
like
that sound,
That
right?
sounds excellent. I
So,
like that.
and it's 5 steps per side, okay?
Yeah.
So really, I hope everyone enjoys this and participates. It really is the number one thing to be healthy is breathing and
How
breathing
many?
properly. Okay, so 5.
5.
Now, anyone, some people find 5, believe it or not, a struggle, especially the holds and the
especially
exhale.
when you exhale and hold.
Yeah. So that's okay. You know, we're not judging you. If you need to do 3 seconds, that's fine. But let's try for 5,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
So let's drop our shoulders, relax our forehead. Whew, exhale out anything that doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
Ready, sir?
Here we go. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Very good. That was perfect.
Well, I was walking around this imaginary box, and
I know, right?
I didn't even get caught in a corner.
I love that visualization, and there's like at least 50, if not more, different types of YouTube videos that some have music, some have scenery, some have beeping, some just show a box. So whatever your style is, male, female, doesn't matter. There is a YouTube video with box breathing method.
I noticed while you're doing this, your fingers are doing something.
Yeah, so when you close your eyes during breath work and tap your fingertips, that basically calms down your central nervous system and works with your parasympathetic system to calm and also help you focus on what you want to focus on. So to your attention to this moment, not to a second ago or the second to come, just on this moment. So when you purposely have to feel your fingertips during the breathing, you're not worried about, how late you're going to be to an appointment or your grocery list or, whatever your boss said that might have upset you. It's all gone. I love it. So I wanted to do a quick little recap. So the last few weeks on the show, I have been discussing the endocrine system, the hypothalamus. I had Bert on as a clinical nutritionist. He was talking about specifics on cell toxicity and how the hypothalamus will get damaged, and that could lead as a symptom to weight gain. And we got a really great question when I unfortunately wasn't there at the store, and my husband kind of was like, interesting. So when Matt was asked the question, well, if I don't have weight gain, then how do I repair my hypothalamus? Because the program that I was pretty much promoting was about weight loss, because it is a huge problem in our country, if not the world. Even 10 pounds of visceral fat, especially in the abdominal area, is very, very dangerous and leads to inflammatory processes and diseases that do concern us. But there are cases that the hypothalamus is not functioning properly and does need to be reset if there is no weight in the body that you can visually see. So there are those tests that I mentioned that are very expensive usually, where you can go to these very fancy medical spas and they will tell you, in case you seem slim, they can tell you if maybe you have dangerous fat in areas that it does not belong. But I don't know anyone in the Treasure Coast that does it. So if I need to be corrected about that, I would love names and phone numbers. So if someone does have the economic means to get the specific MRI done where it shows what type of fat and where it's at the body, I would love that information. So feel free to call me during the show or at the store, 464-3598. I love to learn every day. I feel like I learn new things every single day. So please help me with this. All right, so symptoms of a malfunctioning hypothalamus. So you look in the mirror and your pant size has not changed since high school. Okay, so you're doing great. That's awesome. But here are some other symptoms of a malfunctioning hypothalamus. And remember, in case you missed the previous shows, the hypothalamus is the master regulator of the entire body. Okay, so your endocrine system governs pretty much every function, and your hypothalamus is the regulator for it, for all of it. So here are the symptoms. Okay, high blood pressure or low blood pressure. Okay, so if your blood pressure is not in homeostasis and it's dropping, it's just like some people like, wow, yeah, I have low blood pressure. I don't have to ever worry about meds for high blood pressure. Well, low blood pressure is as serious as high blood pressure. You want your blood pressure to be perfect. There are moments it will change, just like your pulse and your temperature and things during stressors and such. But your blood pressure should be regulated well, and some people will have certain conditions where for their pretty much their whole lifetime they will run a certain way and be fine, but this is where it's a change of blood pressure. Okay, so a malfunctioning will be a change of blood pressure. Okay, the next thing to look for is water retention or dehydration. I do believe, it's my personal opinion, that most of us run around dehydrated. We are drinking way too many caffeine products, sweet teas, unsweet teas, energy drinks, coffee. So we are always thinking we're consuming liquid, but that liquid is not hydrating, and therefore we are running dehydrated. So that symptom is a really hard one to really look for as a malfunctioning hypothalamus, because we are pretty much habitually dehydrated, so we don't know the difference these days, but that is a symptom. And water retention, that's a little easier, you know, when you feel like your rings can't fit, or around your ankles the socks are making a much deeper impression, those things. And sometimes if you go to just the right functional medicine doctor, maybe some regular MDs, they will, as you just walk up to them, they'll be like, wow, you're retaining water. and they can see it right away. Most females always know, like, oh, they wake up and their face looks puffy, puffiness under their eyes, and then as their day goes, it dissipates, and they sell, tons of these horrible creams that will make the water disperse, but again, not correcting the problem. So that's something to look for a malfunctioning hypothalamus: water retention or dehydration. The next is infertility. So infertility, because the hypothalamus governs all hormonal systems, every single hormone, your infertility would be a marker that something's wrong. So like if you have polycystic ovary disease, and that's what they're saying is the cause for your infertility, it's still the hypothalamus malfunctioning. Again, that the polycystic ovary situation is, again, a symptom of the hypothalamus not functioning right. So not really the true cause. The next is bone health. So poor bone health. Obviously, if your bones are nice and strong, you're good, but I think why it's called poor bone health versus just low bone density is because sometimes people have extra calcification in their body, which again is as dangerous as having bones that are weak or more porous. So you want to be concerned with both situations. And again, this is when scans are sometimes appropriate. I'm not really totally sold on the bone density machines. I do feel like they come from the manufacturer of the pharmaceuticals that treat osteoporosis. So again, strong bones is what you want, but really hard to determine without the proper scans. Okay, the next one is muscle loss and weakness. Now, I always make jokes as my status in life being postmenopausal, but you definitely, this is something I feel like you really can tell, because all of a sudden, your legs don't have the strength that they used to, your arms, you definitely feel weaker. I feel like that's an easy thing to really pick up on. It's like getting out of the couch is an effort, okay? So that muscle loss and weakness, once again, malfunctioning of the hypothalamus, okay? It's not just only about age, it is about the hypothalamus regulation. And the next one is body temperature. And I found that interesting because infertility goes along with body temperature. The first thing a fertility specialist will have you do is check body temperature to see where you fall. And the hypothalamus is the master of your temperature, okay? So the body temperature, if you get these really cool new thermometers, it will tell you where your range is, and just like blood pressure, if you're not staying in homeostasis. So these are symptoms of a malfunctioning hypothalamus. So if you don't have the part that we discussed in the previous shows with the sudden weight gain, it doesn't have to be, they use the word sudden, but not your normal weight. Okay, so if you've always maintained within 5 or 6 pounds a certain number, but that number is fluctuating up and down more than 10 pounds, then that's your hypothalamus. And I know many of my girlfriends, there's only a few of us that never fluctuated from that number. And why is that? Why is the hypothalamus just really, really having all this trouble keeping our weight stable, our temperature stable, our blood pressure stable, all these hydration, bone health, the really important things, right? And again, that's because the hypothalamus that lines up with all your endocrine system, if you go back thousands of years ago, even before our medicine detected what a hypothalamus is that whether you go in Ayurveda medicine, Chinese medicine, it lines up with like the chakra system, the chi system, all these meridian systems, and they run everything. We are getting a deeper understanding of how our bodies work. I think we've only a tip of the iceberg, so to say. We have so much more to learn, but if you really step outside the box and consider that everything works together in the human body, okay? The next thing will make sense that why this repairs the hypothalamus, okay? And that is leaky gut repair. Leaky gut a few years ago was, that was everywhere you saw, like whether it be social media, the news, the nutrition books, the supplements, everyone was discussing leaky gut. And that is because when something's discovered, it's exciting, right? And everyone wants to, be into that conversation. And I get that. But our intestinal tract is so much more involved than we call it, the microbiome or the gut, right? And when it communicates with the whole body, everyone says the brain and the gut axis, and it's one, right? But we really want to say it communicates with the entire body. When that system, the intestinal tract, gut, microbiome, call it whatever you want, is not feeling well, okay, then it can't support the hypothalamus. And I'll give you some examples of things to look for to know that your intestinal tract might be labeled as leaky gut. I hate labels. When people come in the store and say, oh, I've been diagnosed with this, I try to strip off those labels and just deal with the whole body, the whole person, and just get back to basics. Because leaky gut, the name just kind of makes you think that things are leaking out of the intestines, like, a water spout that's drippy, right? And it's really so much more complicated than that. But for the show, we're just going to label it the leaky gut, okay? The symptoms that you would look for, their conditions, would be any autoimmune conditions. There's a direct link with leaky gut and autoimmune conditions. Arthritis, okay, which is one of the autoimmune conditions, IBS, Crohn's, or any changes in bowels, whether it be constipation, diarrhea, or the changes in bowels, yeast, which is also can be called candida, candida albicans, fungal issue. So these are just some of them. Now, some people will go as far, even though it's not a medical term, and say brain fog, ADD, ADHD, the list goes on. And if you kind of look at when the hypothalamus is in disrepair, how the symptoms come up, it's the same as the leaky gut, okay? So if you want to start somewhere, okay, that's not about a weight loss program, and it's just about your overall health for your entire body to help everything in the entire body, then you want to start with your gut, okay? So how do we repair the gut? The best supplement to repair the gut is boswellia. So think of boswellia, biblical oil, frankincense oil. There is so much research about cancer with those oils, respiratory health. I mean, my number one seller in the respiratory section is boswellia, but it is absolutely incredible to help heal those areas inside the intestinal tract, whether they be inflamed, irritated, or there is openings, which again they call the leaky. If there's openings that things are going through your intestinal wall that shouldn't, okay? So boswellia, frankincense oil, absolutely incredible. And the formula that I sell, of course, Terry Naturally, I sell so much of his great stuff, is boswellia, and it has fennel and it has peppermint. So it's this perfect blend to help repair the intestinal tract, especially if you have IBS. That, oh my gosh, lots of great information about that. The next one is the Ion. So it used to be called Ion Gut Support, but now it's just called Ion. It's the most affordable product that you can use to help your intestinal system, which helps your entire body. So it's this liquid that's shelf stable, and the bottle itself, at first it's a little larger investment, but it lasts 4 to 6 months depending on your dosing. Okay, so it comes out to maybe $8 a month. Nothing. It has no taste. It has no smell. You do 1 teaspoon a day. It has clinicals behind it. It's a non-profit. It helps to subsidize all the farmers in the United States to not use harmful chemicals, especially glyphosate, which is the #1 cause of leaky gut. Okay, and glyphosate is airborne. So again, if you want to repair your endocrine system and the master of it, the hypothalamus, start with the gut and definitely give it this ion. Ion is made from terrahydrate. So think of like humic acid, fulvic acid. These are things that establish the bed of the intestines, okay? So I love the analogy. I might be speaking about it way too often these days, but if you go to buy the best organic seeds, like you find heirloom seeds, which is hard to do. You find them, they're organic, you're super excited, you come in your backyard, you don't just throw it on that old soil that's sitting near your grass, right? No, you make sure the weeds are out of your garden bed. You make sure you have nourishing organic soil, right? And then you take your precious seeds and then you plant them, right? So it's the same exact thing with the leaky gut and the ion. You want to basically use that terrahydrate as the soil. The amazing part, all of the seeds will plant itself from your variety of where you breathe, what you eat, what you do, because there's no way that a supplement can give us enough probiotics. There's more bacteria in our intestinal tract than there is stars in the sky. So it's a number that we can't even count. We keep trying, but we're not doing so good, because to stabilize the bacteria of the body is something that probably would take maybe another 100 years, if that's even possible. I don't think it's possible. So you want to just worry about the environment that the seeds are going to, meaning the probiotics. You want to help reestablish that gut lining. You want to seal up any leaky junctions, okay? And ION has clinical studies to do it, and it's a phenomenal nonprofit that's trying to get at the cause of why we all have the leaky gut to begin with. So I love ION. And if you don't want to spend the $70 so that it is for a 4 to 6 month supply, they make a nasal spray that's like $14. I think $14.99, and it's the same exact liquid that you just put in your nose. And so remember, all your mucosal lining, whether it be in your sinus cavity, your esophagus, your intestinal tract, it's all going to the same places. So you can use that if that's more budget friendly and to help repair that leaky gut. All right, the next one is another favorite of mine, and that is MCT oil. Tricky to get sometimes with my ordering because I prefer only one kind. So this kind is the MCT oil that only has C8. Why do I love C8? Because it goes back from the beginning of when I learned about nutrition so long ago, when no one was talking about MCT oil. It was like unheard of. But people were talking about caprylic acid. So caprylic acid is C8. That was famous and still is famous for killing fungal, yeast, and candida walls, all in the same thing, but in case you know one term and not the other. So why is that critical? If you go to some of the most famous books in nutrition and you talk about the big C, so whether it be cancer or autoimmune conditions or life-threatening conditions, back then Alzheimer's, dementia were rarely talked about, so a lot of the research was not about them, but mostly about cancer, is that they would have a lot of fault on they would blame on yeast, candida, and fungal issues. And MCT oil, that's carbon 8, that caprylic acid, it eats that stuff up. It loves to eat it, digest it, so it does no harm to the body. Now, we all have candida living in us, but sometimes, again, if it goes out of step, then you need to like push it back down and tell it who's boss, okay? And MCT oil is incredible for that. But as time went on and more research was done with the MCT oil, they realized because it's a pure ketone, it's phenomenal for the brain. And after you heal the gut, of course, we want to keep the brain healthy, right? So, Cliff, if we can do a quick break, I'm trying to do these breaks. I'm 2 minutes off just to catch my breath. We're going to come back, and now that we discussed how to keep a leaky gut healthy, we're going to talk about how to keep the brain healthy, which is the home of the hypothalamus. So we want to keep the home of the hypothalamus happy, friendly, and feeling healthy. So I'll be right back, guys.
You're listening to Joanne's World of Nutrition, and yes, she will be right back.
Hi, this is Joanne from Nutrition World and Wellness Center. I am really excited to introduce new guests and topics to my show every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. here on WPSL, where my listeners can call in on any topic. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find it. We want to help you become the best version of yourself. We'll have naturopaths, coaches. I am looking forward to sharing my years of experience with my listeners so we can enjoy this life journey together.
Visit Joanne's Nutrition World in the Kras Square, formerly known as the Arcade Building, located at US 1 and Orange Avenue, across from Fort Pierce City Hall. Open Monday through Friday from 10 to 4, Saturdays 10 to 3. Taking appointments for the Wellness Center online at joannesnutritionworld.com or call 772-464-3598.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
We now return to Joanne's World of Nutrition with the one and only Joanne Seeger.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for staying put and keep listening. I know some of you have to go in and out of listening with your work and such. And so remember, all these episodes go onto YouTube, so you can listen later. And I keep a book. I try to be really good this year, and so far so great, of all the notes of everything I discuss on the show. So if you come into the store or call the store and be like, you know what, I missed like the middle, I had to run out of the car, I can pull up my notes and guide you on what information you might have missed. All right, so we're talking about what helps the hypothalamus, and I can't stress enough how critical the hypothalamus health is to your body. It regulates everything, and I mean everything. Anything you might be thinking in your mind right now is the hypothalamus. Body temperature, hydration, hormonal function, immune function, libido, mood, sleep, everything. It's the hypothalamus, this tiny little marble-sized gland that sits in your brain, and it's just this master conductor, okay? So what keeps it healthy is what we discussed, the leaky gut, okay? And now we have to keep this in mind. This part I don't like so much, but there in the brain, there's the blood-brain barrier. A lot of people feel very safe because they'll say, oh, my blood-brain barrier protects me from the exposure to this chemical or this danger or this toxin. But unfortunately, the hypothalamus is not protected by the blood-brain barrier. That's a little bit scary because it gets exposed, whether intentionally or not, to so many toxins, the endocrine disruptors especially. So think of your senses, things that you hear, you smell, you taste, you see. All those things, okay, is affecting your hypothalamus. And it really is counting on us to make good choices. So some of the things we can't control are things that maybe in our workspace that we're breathing in, or stressors that are outside of our little bubble that are coming in and we need time to process it. Like yesterday, I had a really stressful day, and then all of a sudden it was just that right song that kind of put my mind out of it. So have your little toolbox set up so that way your hypothalamus only has to deal what's not intentional. I won't go on and on like I usually do about the smell sensing, because fragrances, any artificial fragrances really disrupt the hypothalamus. So don't purposely spray things in your environment or on your body that will hurt your hypothalamus. That's a direct insult to it, okay? So consider that. So things, chemicals. Oh, the other one is artificial hormones. Artificial hormones are in, everyone does think of your meat, okay? So everyone thinks, because if you see meat these days, they try to really advertise no hormones we use, no hormones used. But there's a little catch. Vegetables have hormones too. How is it? It's the glyphosate. So that's like a few hour show in and itself. So if you just Google glyphosate hormones and crops, you will learn all about the glyphosate and why there is hormonal exposure with that one too. So always try to do organic if possible, non-GMO, so your body doesn't have to deal with those extra insults to the hypothalamus. I'm trying to think of, as far as plasticizers, I can't stress enough, glass drinking water bottles are available everywhere now, and they're super affordable, they're trendy, every color possible.
I've wondered about that because I understand that some plastics are actually bad for us and we're drinking water.
All plastics are. There's no good plastic. The only reason they're plastic can be used in life-saving instruments, right? Like one time I looked up, and I think I mentioned this on the show, like 70% what's in an urgent care or an emergency room is plastics. So yes, you're exposed to that endocrine disruptor, but it's where it carries the blood. It's where the injectors are. Like, it's what the life-saving instruments are made of. So there is a place for them, but not in your drinking water bottles. You can, like this one here, let me see what the brand is in this. I've had this one. Matt has the same brand with a different color. I am hot pink, he is blue. This is Zulu, Zulu, because I know if you type into say Amazon, glass drinking water bottles, now there's hundreds. It's not like it used to be where there's like two choices.
Is that glass?
So it's glass.
Oh,
isn't that awesome? So it has a complete plastic sleeve. It has a great wide opening. So when you open it, it's easy to wash it, whether it be the dishwasher or a bottle brush.
And you're actually drinking it from the glass top itself, not the cover that's
exactly. It's so, and I haven't broken it yet, and I think we've had these over a year, and they're really awesome. And Bert really got me conscious of not drinking from plastic because of the super silica. So the super silica has to be used with glass only. And, why would you want to work on detoxifying your body while you're adding toxins as you're drinking your water? It doesn't make sense to me. And everyone uses the excuse of either cost or convenience. The cost of doing a filter system and a glass bottle is absolutely cheaper than spending time, gas, and going to buy these plastic water bottles. And if they're the new kind that have these sleeves around it, you're protected against breakage of the glass bottle, and they can be held real easy. So, wow, I sound like I'm doing an info commercial for glass water bottles. But really, plastic is the worst endocrine disruptor and damages the hypothalamus a terrible amount. So please try to do that. I want to throw out one name that I guess is, I should have maybe known her name sooner than today, but I guess she's the best-selling author on Amazon. So Catherine Kerrigan. Do you know her, Cliff?
Sounds familiar.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're not like, oh, yeah, she's a medical intuitive. And so when I was doing research for exercises, because some people are like, when I'm under stress, I just don't know what to do. Like, the stress is crippling me. And so she gave an example on a YouTube video about just rubbing your temples, but you have to do it with your eyes closed. So this is to repair the hypothalamus. So if you want to pull it up on YouTube, if you just type in her name, Catherine Kerrigan, Carrigan, she has this very simple 3-minute video on how to repair the hypothalamus by just gently rubbing your temples while having your eyes closed, and you want to do deep, deep breaths. So the breathing is as important as rubbing the temples, and you want to just try to do this for at least 60 seconds, okay? I always double the amount of time when they have exercises, so you want to definitely try that. So, and one thing that I keep coming across, and as you know, in Florida, I guess the whole country, you know, the cost of electricity and running AC is a little crazy right now, right? So I have the whole house running on a warmer setting just to save money. But it seems like all the research over the last 3 weeks for this topic keeps saying to sleep in a colder environment. So Catherine Kerrigan, once again, like all my other mentors, is saying 60 to 67 degrees to help the hypothalamus. And I'm like, geez, somebody really wants me to lower my AC and spend more money. But I absolutely agree, because besides the things I mentioned, sleep is the best thing for the hypothalamus. Now, it's a little tricky, because if you can't sleep or have disruptive sleep, it is a sign of a malfunctioning hypothalamus. So it's like, wait a second. If I need to sleep to fix the hypothalamus, but the hypothalamus being broken is causing me not to sleep, it doesn't make sense, right? But we all know we intentionally do things that disrupt our sleep. So I try to suggest change what you can. And, you know, what's that saying where there's certain things in your control, certain things that aren't. So do what you can. That's up to you. So turning off any screens, and this is hard for me. I love my movies at night. Matt loves his researching, so we totally understand the issue here. But if you turn off all your screens, whether it be your phone, your iPad, your smart TVs, after dark, that's when the body will start calming down and getting ready to sleep. If you watch, like, oh my gosh, the other night we watched a movie that was so provoking, major drama, right before bed, forget it. I didn't sleep at all that night. I was figuring out this whole thing and what was happening in the movie. So be very careful about that. Once in a while, no big deal, but every night it is going to disturb your hypothalamus, okay? So sleep is critical. The other thing is make your room completely dark. Like, make your room nice and dark, and just have light bulbs that are like red or orange, so you don't disturb your hypothalamus. You get much better sleep. And then try to do a set time. I took Elena yesterday to St. Lucie Acupuncture. Marcella, I absolutely love her. I've known her for years. And my daughter Elena, she's 13, and she did like 7 hours of volleyball. You know, she did this whole Saturday thing, and her back was killing her. So I brought her into Marcella. And the first thing Marcella said, so again, this is why I love people that really know the body and healing. She looked at Elena, didn't even discuss her back, and said, "You're not getting enough sleep." Now, yeah, I knew that because, you know, teenagers, right? But we went in there at 4:30. She did a treatment until 5:30, and she put all the needles in her back and her head, right? Where did she put it in her head? Right at the hypothalamus. And I noticed that because I took a picture for Elena so she could see where all the needles were because she was face down. And I was like, that is so cool that it's right at the hypothalamus. Well, when she slept during the treatment, and then when we got home, she slept the entire night. She went right to sleep and slept for, oh my gosh, so what is that? So say 6 o'clock to 12 hours. 12 hours. So again, this is what, when your hypothalamus gets what it wants, it feels so much better. So again, I can go on and on about all the ways to sleep better, but I think all my listeners really do know what they're doing wrong. Oh, a bowl of ice cream before bed, not so good for most people. There's some body types that can handle it, but not most. Cereal or eating in general, make that 3 hours before bed. Really cut that off. Your digestive system is supposed to be turned off by the time you go to sleep, so that way you can go into detoxification mode. And like I mentioned, toxins, endocrine disruptors break the hypothalamus. Keep them out of your body, detox from them, and you'll do so much better. The other thing that really helps you detox is exercise. Now, I can say proudly that I've been more active, so now I feel not so hypocritical saying exercise is amazing, yay! So when we're stressed, our blood leaves the cortex, okay? The cortex of our brain. And that's where the hypothalamus needs its blood, right? So one thing great that helps with exercise is with your ATP production and your body being told it needs to bring in more oxygen, more ATP. That helps that blood flow back to the cortex. Now, a lot of people, if they're fighting with their loved one or they're having stress at work or some really bad news just came to you, the last thing you usually think about is exercise, right? But it really should be the first thing you think about. So whether it be a brisk walk, listening to your favorite song and just kind of telling those senses everything's going to be okay. I love music. Music really shifts my mood. But for some people that are much more active than it doesn't take much to have that happen, might just do a run or a bicycle ride, or if they have something in their home like oh my gosh, what are those bikes called? They're really
stationary exercise
yeah, like
bike?
but yeah, there's a name for like the Pennington, or I don't know. They're the ones at the fancy scene where you can be out in nature and racing the bike. So whatever it might be, exercise is absolutely important. It doesn't mean you have to have a gym membership. It doesn't mean when you're stressed that you have to do an hour. Sometimes 1 minute can help that blood flow and that ATP production. It's just basically telling your body who's boss and what your priority is. Do I want to be stressed out all day and upset all day? Or do I want to take control and get lots of oxygen in, lots of ATP production, and tell the brain what's going to be a better day? Sit and suffer, or just move my body? Now, I love mini rebounders, the mini trampolines. They are affordable. They can be right in front of your TV. I hide it, of course, when guests come over, but right in front of the TV, and just put on like this beautiful scenery on YouTube, and you just look at it. And there are videos now where you can be like rafting down a river or flying, so you can literally like live in that moment. Talk about making your mind escape and having a break from the stress. And while you're on the mini rebounder, you're moving the body. Like this morning, I did 30 minutes. And 30 minutes is incredible on a mini rebounder, because in 10 minutes you improve your immune system by 70%. So 30 minutes was motivating for me, because I was like, okay, and there's no stress on the joints because you're not having to jump up in the air to really get the benefits. You're just gently pushing. I do like fake jumping jacks. and just do deep breathing and just really move all my body parts to make all the blood flow happen and get that blood back to the cortex so the hypothalamus is bathed in what I hope is toxic free, no endocrine system disruptors blood. Okay, so sleep, exercise. The next most important thing, and I want to mention, because it doesn't have the blood-brain barrier protection, also artificial sweeteners, they still, I feel like, are protecting that industry, and they won't really tell us the truth. But I know back when I ran a store in Boca Raton over 35 years ago, I had a neurologist. He literally, he was a surgeon that worked in the brain every day. And he told me he could see the patterns of his patients that did a lot of artificial sweeteners inside the brain. But because there wasn't a lot of evidence or proof, or, I never really told that story because I didn't want to sound like I didn't know the whole thing. So now I don't care, because I'm like, you know what? This makes sense to me. How many people use an artificial sweetener in the beginning and get headaches, piercing headaches, right? And then their body adapts, like our bodies really want to do the best for us. So they kind of probably look at us like, well, if you're going to do this artificial sweetener every day, okay, then it's kind of like a killing slowly effect versus the piercing headache will stop, but you still will have troubles later on. And none of us usually think about the later ons. We always are like, well, if it's not so bad today, I much rather keep going. But the later ons do happen. So we really have to be cautious about artificial anything, especially artificial sweeteners. So if you're hooked to the sucralose, the Splendas, all those things, just do some deep research on the subject. See how your body feels without it, and then add it back in, and then see if it's worth it, because your body will tell you if you take the time to listen. All right, so what the hypothalamus needs is good old nutrients. What a concept, right? So nutrients, now you have your macronutrients, right? So we think of protein, fats, but where the fat comes from, not from a commercial seed oil, okay? So again, stay away from the canola oils, the processed big bottles of oil, especially the ones that can sit on your kitchen cabinet, and you can make those annual Christmas cookies with that same bottle 5 years later. Gross, disgusting. Our hypothalamus hates it. Our whole body hates it, okay? So really be careful of those commercial seed oils, canola, safflower, all of those. Some oils, like if they're really high quality, like coconut oil, olive oil, they do have a place in a healthy body, but you have to make sure you're getting fresh pressed oils that are treated properly and they're real, especially canola and vegetable oil. I would stay away from them, even if it's a once a year Christmas cookie. Not even worth it, even that time. Okay, and then so the nutrients we need are polyphenols. Now, polyphenols are really famous right now, so you can buy them in a supplement form. But polyphenols, no surprise, are in all your superfoods. So any superfood you might come across social media where it promises you instant miracle fix, there's some truth to it. But all the studies are coming from areas in the world where they do these superfoods or polyphenol mixes. So it's not like one superfood. They have this amazing diet full of polyphenols since birth and to the point of the study. So really always remember, just doing one superfood not always is the appropriate answer. I take the polyphenols in a supplement because I absolutely know that I'm not getting enough fruits and vegetables, especially the right kinds. I try my best, but despite that, whether it be time, economics, convenience, I can name 10 reasons or excuses, but polyphenols are critical for our body and our hypothalamus to be nourished. So if you think of the studies, Bird talks about it all the time, most of my guests, your turmeric, your blueberries, your moringa, I can go on and on. But again, it's the polyphenols that are really incredible. So if you, for any reason or excuse, can't get enough polyphenols in like me, you can get reputable companies that do make blends. Of course, I have Terry's. I love Terry and I trust him. Money back guarantee. So the hypothalamus needs nutrition. So you have to give it all its nutrition. And of course, water. So it cannot balance, so it's responsible for the kidneys function, okay, the hypothalamus. Like I said, it's responsible for everything. So if you remember in the beginning of the show, I said one of the symptoms of the hypothalamus not working is either water retention or dehydration. So either way, you have to give your body good quality water without toxins in it. So that way it can go in there and help repair not only the hypothalamus regulating it, but all the systems that the hypothalamus has to use that water to fix, which is every system. Okay? So definitely. Ooh, I think I covered all the material. This is great. So I do have one quick add-on that I thought was super cool. So like I mentioned, the Catherine Kerrigan, the rubbing the temples. So another of my favorite people on YouTube is called the Motivational Doctor. And he has this thumb exercise where it reboots the brain in about 20 seconds, okay? And it really does work. So if you pull up the Motivational Doctor and say, how to reboot the brain in 20 seconds, the video will come up. But it's super simple. You're basically squeezing the sides of the first you're actually tapping on the nail bed of the thumb for about 30 seconds, okay? And then you're squeezing the sides of the thumb and you're holding that for about 30 seconds. I held it for 60 seconds, and that literally is working with the hypothalamus, because remember, the hypothalamus deals with everything, all your senses, okay? What you see, what you hear, what you smell. So you definitely want to check that out. It's a super simple thing, and just like how acupuncture works and acupressure works, everything sends signals to everywhere in the human body. So this one definitely works. The next one is essential oils. So essential oils are really popular right now, but they've been popular for a long time. So it's one of your senses that regulate your hypothalamus. So I, yesterday, like I mentioned, I was having a really tough day. So I pulled off the shelf the Calm formula for Garden of Life. It's a blend of all these different essential oils. I'm not a big fan of lavender, but it's just enough lavender in there that doesn't bother me, but it's really calming. So if you really feel like at a loss, try essential oils. It's absolutely, you can get really affordable ones like lemon and orange. They bring joy, uplifting. So don't give up on yourself. There's so many different ideas that you can put in your toolbox. Thanks, guys, for listening, and I'll be back next week. Have a great one.
Joanne's World of Nutrition every Wednesday morning in the 10 o'clock hour on WPSL Port St. Lucie. It's one of the many reasons why we're the talk of the Treasure Coast.